total chic salade farine. השחקנים במגרשים, les mademoiselles en Israël, là, oulala, oulala, oulala. Comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça, comme si, comme ça. Tout le monde à gauche, à droite. J'ai dit à gauche, maintenant à droite. Let's get it. La politique, comme ci, comme ça. La panasta, comme ci, comme ça. Les puces en mode, comme ci, comme ça. Alcool, comme ci, comme ça. Éducation, comme ci, comme ça. Information, comme ci, comme ça. Précision, comme ci, comme ça. Comme ci, comme ça.
Welcome everyone to this newest edition of the Articulation series, where art is formed in Torah and Torah informs art. Today we have a beautiful presentation where we're going to meet with the findings and discoveries of Siona Benjamin paired with Rabbi Alicia Magal. Throughout the year, they've processed with one another, they've laughed, they've cried, they've shared so much together, in all at the hearth of the Torah. Rabbi Alicia Magal has spent 7 years in Israel working with at the Israel Broadcasting Authority, national television station, and as a licensed tour guide for adult and youth groups. She met her husband Yitzchak in Israel on kibbutz Magan Michal during her work in the Jewish community. Rabbi Magal developed interactive programs and museum tours as museum educator. She is currently the rabbi of a community in Siona since 2006, the Jewish community of Siona and Verde Valley. Siona Benjamin is a Fulbright scholar who integrates Indian motifs and her heritage into her art and analyzes ideas with poignancy and direction, dealing in social issues. And without further ado, I want everyone to draw their attention to this presentation, not 1 minute more from any of you. Rabbi Alicia, would you please frame this portion for us?
Shalom, everyone. This week's Torah portion is Beha'alotcha, and there are so many elements in it that the first time I met with Siona, I kind of outlined it, and I was so curious to see what she would focus on. And so I said, well, it's raising oneself up to light the menorah. And Beha'alotcha means like there's an aliyah in there. And are you raising the light? Are you raising yourself? So I thought we might talk about that. And then I talked about the fashioning of silver trumpets. And I thought maybe she's going to put trumpets all around the margin. I mean, I really was wondering. There's even a section that's separated by two upside down nuns. Moshe Kumu, I don't know. I mean, Beyafutsu Oivecha, there's this whole part that is in there that we say when we take out the Torah from the Ark. And there's even the very moving element of healing where Moses prays for his sister Miriam and says, Elna Rafan Allah, please God heal her, when she says something. And that was a discussion we had. What is it that she says that causes her to have a scaly disease called sara'at? And I had mentioned that maybe it was a struggle between Moses's public role with the people and private role with his family, and that she was saying as a woman, you really should pay more attention to your wife and your kids. But anyway, so we were talking about all of those elements, and I was trying to imagine what her art would be like. And as we started reading, she said, wait a minute, what is this phrase here, Isha Kushi? And I had just glossed right over it. Well, yeah, Moses's wife was dark, and she probably came from, I don't know, Ethiopia or somewhere, wherever it was dark, or Midian, or, she could have come from any of those places and in Africa. And all of a sudden, she just stopped me in my tracks, because I had always given Miriam a very gentle role. Of what she said, I thought was like, oh, really pay more attention to your family. And all of a sudden, because I talked to Siona, she says, what is this about the dark-skinned woman? It's not just a description of the origin of where she comes from. It's casting aspersion on her skin color. And so we switched our whole discussion away from the trumpets and the menorah and the nuns and all the other possibilities to historical denigration and discrimination by white Ashkenazi Jews against Jews of color, who really are the original Jews from the Middle East. And so we had incredible talks, and so you'll see how it plays out in the rest of our discussion today. She even suggested that I should read Mother India, Father Israel, which is a great book, and I really suggest everyone read that. So we'll talk about our own family origins and our connections, and we'll talk more about how you can take something in a Torah portion and have it be made relevant to your life and to something larger in the world that's an issue that you feel passionately about. So what I propose is that we look at Siona's animation, because she didn't just do one picture, she did a whole animation without explanation. And you just take from it whatever you can. And then we promise you, after our whole discussion, after Siona analyzes it, you will go back and show it again, and you'll be amazed at how many more layers that you see and understand and how it touches you. So, Siona, are you okay to show the animation?
Yep, sure.
Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala.
בירושלים נערכה הפגנה רבתי של בני ישראל, עליהם הצטרפו אזרחים רבים אשר יצאו בקריאה לביטול הנחיות הרבנות הראשית בדבר רישום נישואים של בני עדה זו. ההפגנה נערכה בעיצומה של שביתת הרעב אשר ערכו נציגי בני ישראל, שביתה שעוררה הדים רבים בארץ ומחוצה לה. בעקבות שביתת הרעב וההפגנה התכנסה הכנסת למושב מיוחד תוך הפגרה שלה כדי לדון בבעיה. על דעת הכנסת התקבלה הודעתו של ראש הממשלה, מר לוי אשכול, כי בני ישראל נחשבים כיהודים לכל דבר. מר אשכול פנה אל הרבנות הראשית בקריאה לעזור בעצירת תחושת האפליה. בעקבות הודעה זו הפסיקו 32 משפחות בני ישראל את שביתתם שנמשכה 29 יום.
Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala. Heal our bodies, open our hearts, awaken our minds, Shekhinah. Heal our bodies, open our hearts, awaken our minds, Shekhinah. Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifana lanu.
Every time I see that, Siona, I see something new in it. So tell us about how you came to make this piece of art and also the students who participated in the project.
Well, thank you. Like Rabbi said before, that there were so many iconography, that we could have taken from, parashas, and Midrash offers you that much, that this wealth of information, and you just barely feel like you're scratching the surface every time you even like analyze two lines in Midrash. So you have to make choices, and so actually, I can tell you a little bit as to. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about this whole Isha Kushit thing. And I had this hunch, but I knew a little bit about Zipporah being the black woman, the Ethiopian, the Midianite, but I didn't know anything about race in the Torah or racial discussions in the Torah, till I'm having a series of exhibitions at different venues, and the professor with the university that I was at, she was very knowledgeable, and she sent me a whole barrage of articles, and she's like, "Are you kidding me? This is issues of race, and this whole thing about the Isha Kushit has been written about a lot." And so I read some articles, and I felt a little bit validated. And I also started thinking about the fact that this is so pertinent to today's times in a way, because of George Floyd, because of what's happening in the world, because of all these racial tensions that people have. And I was thinking also that even though people have become closer together because of the internet, because of social media, because of all of these facilities we have now. We used to write letters before or send telegrams, and now we have so facilitated so much of communication. But despite that, there is more compartmentalization. Maybe there's more people putting people in boxes. And it's kind of ironical that that should not happen, but it seems to be like there's misunderstandings, or people's opinions are so rampant out there that somebody can catch on to something and just totally misinterpret something, and it could cause a whole riot. So taking all that into context, I thought that addressing this issue would be very pertinent, because and when I did read some of these articles, I found that there is a debate as to even though Miriam got the leprosy because of speaking up to God, and Aaron didn't get the leprosy, and Moses obviously didn't, but like only she got it. And first thing, why did she get it? Because she was a woman. Why didn't he get punished too? In the same way. That was one talk, but one part of it. But also, I think it was this whole discussion spurred in my mind about she's the one that keeps referring to Tzipporah as the Isha Kushit, and she does that several times. And sometimes I wonder why was the need to kind of do that. And when I read some of these articles, I found that people have discussed it as to there's an article I read which says is the Torah, some parts of it racist, and obviously it's very complex, and many religions have many controversies in them, and that's fine. But I just thought that highlighting this whole story about Miriam and Tzipporah and their relationship would be interesting. Then I also spoke to Galit Dardashti, who's a friend of mine, and she's a musician, and she's the head of this group called Divan, which is, I kind of know her pretty well. I've used some of her music in the past. And she said, I have a song which is called Shekhar Choret. And this song is originally in Ladino. In both Hebrew and Ladino, the title means dark woman. Although the chorus refers to the magnificent beauty of Shekhar Choret, the speaker herself states, I used to be fair, the summer sun made me dark, suggesting the ambiguous attitude towards beauty. This song is traditionally sung at Mizrahi weddings and as the women danced around the bride. So it was kind of like an interesting song, and so it was very appropriate. So I asked her permission for using the song. And then I also had two wonderful students, one of whom is here today, and we'll talk to you a little bit about the animation process and how we took parts of my paintings, and between meeting with Rabbi and Dwyer and meeting with the students, we actually came about making this short animation. And then a friend of mine, an Indian Jewish friend of mine from my community, shared with me this video that I put on later on. And I was like, oh my God, like I'd heard about it because I had a cousin who kind of secretly told me once that she wanted to marry her fellow Bnei Israel. Now she's married like 35 years, but she lives in Israel in Nahariya, and her daughter just got married and everything is fine. But at that time, like in the 80s, she wanted to get married to her fellow Bnei Israel boyfriend. And the Ashkenazi rabbi that said, I won't marry you because I don't recognize you as non-Ashkenazi and therefore not Jewish. When her family came from a 2,000-year-old culture of Mesopotamia, of Iran, Iraq, and India. So there was some of that racism there, and then later on with the Ethiopians, and then my Yemenite cousins telling me also something about it, and then Rabbi telling me about her husband. And so I just felt it was appropriate to kind of talk a little bit about this dynamics between Miriam and Tzipporah, and maybe get a chance to highlight more current topics using them as reference. So I have a few paintings in the end that I also did, imagining what Tzipporah and Miriam might look like, and I will share that with you in the end. But before I do that, I want Shana, who is my student, who actually I had two young women of color by chance as interns this semester with me, and so it was appropriate for us to discuss some issues of race and them telling me some things that they've been through too. And it was wonderful to work with them. And Shana will just talk to you a little bit about the process of the animation of what is rotoscope and how we did some of these techniques. So Shana, I'll let you speak for a few minutes.
Hello, I'm Shana. I was an intern under Siona this spring. During that time, I helped create the video that was presented. I spent majority of my time creating the rotoscope of Miriam dancing. A rotoscope is a beginner's way of animating. That's where you take a pre-recorded video, convert it into frames, then draw over the person until you complete the action that is being done. I've personally never animated before, so this opened a lot of new doors for me. Sadly, Piedra couldn't come today. But she had created majority of the backgrounds that you saw, like the one with the house, and then you see like the bird that circles around it. She also edited the entire video. From what we discussed in the past, she wanted us to stress the possibilities of Miriam being racist. There was no real reason for her to call Zipporah the Black woman, as was discussed before. Zipporah has a name she could use, and it was just left at Moses' wife. As we know from the verses that, from the reading, God punished Miriam for speaking against Moses. There was something that caught our attention, and we wondered if, for the days she was outside the camp, was she blaming Zipporah? Hence the bird that flies over the house. Zipporah means bird, so that was the best way to keep her a part of the animation. Honestly, this was a lot of fun to work with. Never would I have worked in the realm of animation if it wasn't for this project. So thank you, Siona, for this opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, Shayna, and Piatra, who's not here, unfortunately. Actually, they're done with their semester with me. They have graduated. They've gotten their grades. They don't need to be here, but they are, but they're here because I told them, can you please? And one of them at least showed up. The other one is, I think, out of town. So it was a lot of fun, and I think it was really interesting to be able to have a dialogue with these young women too about what's happening in the world today, and discuss my own stories. But I can say this, that I love Israel. It's not putting fault to any country. I think there is racism everywhere, even in India. When the British came to India, there was this whole brainwashing of being fairer skin being beautiful. And so you'll see matrimonial ads asking, for tall, fair bride in India, when the beautiful brown skin is mostly what you see in India. So this sort of like, subtle racism because of skin color or because of, misinterpretations. Like, I think also when people put people in a box, and whether it's food, whether it is skin color, whether it is assuming that, somebody told me recently that there were two partners. One was a dark-skinned African, one was a lighter-skinned European. Well, the European was always put forward first as a front in the business, and the darker-skinned person was operating from the back because they knew that doing the opposite would get less business. So this sort of like attitude, which we see in the world, I felt like by doing a project like this, I could highlight and I could talk a little bit about these issues and discuss that. The Indian Jews have long kind of forgotten that, so have the Moroccan Jews and the Yemenite Jews and the Ethiopian Jews that were more recently there, who still a little bit suffer a little bit of, I wouldn't say racism, but of different kind of treatment. They come from one of the oldest traditions of the tribe of Solomon and Sheba. And so I just feel like through this project, I could talk, and through Miriam and Zipporah, I could talk about people thinking about this issue. So next time when you ask somebody, instead of saying whatever you're eating or doing is weird, you could say, oh, it's different. I would love to know more about it. Instead of saying, your food smells weird, you could say, your food smells delicious. I have never eaten that before. I'd love to taste it. It's all in the attitude of how you introduce yourself to something that is foreign to you.
Why don't we take a moment and show some of the history of how the Jews came from Israel and spread to what was called the Silk Route. And not everybody knows about it. So Vera, if you would show those slides, please.
Sure.
So you can see on the left where it says Babylonian exile, 586 BCE. Can you show your cursor where Israel would be? In Judah. Okay, so all those arrows show how the armies conquered Israel, destroyed the first temple, And the people were taken all the way to the east, to Babylonia, that's modern day Iraq. And for Persia and Babylonia, modern day Iraq, Persia is modern day Iran, that whole area further east is India. There were these wonderful trade routes, and the Jews were instrumental in these caravans going back and forth. These were the original Jewish people. You can see from 70 CE, the picture on the right is the destruction of the temple when Rome conquered and took the menorah and took other of the artifacts. And you can see a depiction of the temple in ruins and the people being exiled. So what happened to those people? What happened to their descendants? Next slide. Well, they became our ancestors. So Siona, why don't you talk about your family, and then I'll talk about my husband's family.
Well, I just took a selection of a couple of photos from my very large album that I have. This is my parents. They had a wonderful mixture of, East and West in the Jews in India. My mother wearing a very Indian gold necklace. She loved her gold, like all Indian women do. And, my mother on the right putting henna on the fingers of her sister-in-laws at her sister-in-law's wedding. So people also ask, why henna? That's not Jewish. And I say, well, it is in Morocco, in India, in Iran, in Iraq. These traditions. I didn't grow up with matzo ball soup. I grew up with coconut curries and halwas. So just like, I've written this book called Growing Up Jewish in India with Professor Ori Soltis, and we hope to highlight a little bit more about that, the different traditions. My daughter is in Israel right now, and she's studying, interning and learning Indian Jewish food, because she's recently become a certified chef. So she's discovering her own cooking from her own community. I'll let you do the next slide. Oh yeah, and there's one more. This turban of my great grandfather weighs very heavy on my head, and you'll see it in the painting later on. These Oriental men with their turbans and their long robes and the Star of David hanging on a chain in his pocket and their long beards. I have, a lot of photographs like this of my ancestors. I especially put this photograph because I love using turbans. The turban, the Orientalism, so to speak, kind of appears in my painting sometimes.
So this is my husband Yitzhak Magal's grandparents, and you can see Avraham Yitzhak Majaled on the far left, Shmuel Majaled on the far right, and when Yitzhak, who you can see there at a wedding ceremony we went to together, it was very lovely, he changed the name to Magal, which was more Hebrew, but it came from Majaled because it had to do with leather and bindings and scrolls. So you can see also they had turbans, and it was a whole different culture of how the honored men were dressed. And you can see that we have different skin color, and our kids are sort of in between. I remember when our son Amir was about 9 years old, he said to me at the beach, Ima, you have to put on cream because you don't have good skin like we do. I always remember that as such a sweet thing he said. Yeah, that's my sweet Hubbardsson, who helps me with everything at the synagogue. And he has educated people about, yes, of course there were Jews in Iraq. Where do you think the Talmud was written? Where do you think the seat of Jewish learning was for 1,000 years? And so people here know, but we wanted to make sure everybody watching would know more about it. Here, another slide. And our son Amir loves to paint on bodies. He calls it tribal markings. And I had taught him calligraphy, and he took it to a whole different level. You can look up tribal markings. That's our son, Amir Magal. And he trains other artists to use their own calligraphy of their own alphabet, because he uses a lot of Hebrew. It doesn't show in this particular one, but he often uses Hebrew words at very special events to honor his lineage. Thank you. So we're not going to show it quite yet. Let's come back to us. So I just want to say that working with Siona was eye-opening, mind-blowing for me, because she wasn't afraid to confront difficult issues. And so she said, it's not enough to love Ruth and to, at Shavuot, to read about Boaz and Ruth and Naomi. What about Ruth if she were a refugee today? How would she be treated? Where would she go? How would she use those same talents? Bringing it to right now. And I just honor that so much. She talked about Lilith being the eternal ex-wife. I love that. I think we should do something about that. But we can't sidestep the difficult issues, not in the Torah, not in our life, and not in the world around us. And through her art, Siona is so relevant and so honest. And so I feel like I grew, and I hope that you also got something out of our discussions that were more literature based. And together, the synergy was just so exciting. And I really want to honor the Amen Institute and Dvir Kahana, you can see his picture up there, for this idea of bringing together people with different disciplines, different backgrounds, to make Midrash in a whole new way, to express ourselves and bring the Torah of our tradition to the Torah of our lives. As my colleague and friend and mentor, Rabbi Laura Geller always said, and bring the Torah of our lives to the Torah of our tradition. And that is a beautiful synergy. And that's what we're doing in this year-long practice of combining different rabbis with different artists. Now, you may have noticed in our talk that we spoke about Miriam with water. She had the well in the sweet water in the desert. Tzipora means bird, so that character is sometimes shown as a bird. That there is this phrase, Anna Elna Rafana La, please God, heal her, that in the text it's Moses, but in the art it's an angel saying kind of emphatically, come on, heal her, get her back. And there are other elements too, and the whitening. So some of those elements you should look for, but I think, Siona, you haven't mentioned something about your blue skin characters. I think you should mention that.
Okay. When I started creating my art many years ago, and I started thinking, what shade of brown should I paint the characters, these actors on the stage? I started studying Midrash with these different rabbis, and they said, the style of what you do is the detailed work that you do is so conducive to learning Midrash. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, I'm not religious, and in that way. And so the first rabbi that I studied with, he said, no, this got nothing to do with religion. It's about interpreting and recycling stories. And then I read the book, The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell, and I was like, that's what I'm about. I'm a visual storyteller. And that's when I really embraced and I started creating characters, and I started thinking, which shade of brown should I create my characters? And it was difficult. And then I came up with the idea of painting the characters a light turquoise blue. So she's the color of the sky and the ocean. She belongs everywhere and nowhere at the same time. She's a symbol for me of being a Jewish woman of color. She is transcultural. She blends in with the sky, and the sky doesn't really belong to any country. So, it's like she belongs everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And so this blue kind of, also there are Indian gods and Buddhist gods that are, the green Tara and the red Tara and the Krishna. And so I've been exposed to all of these myriad, like a huge amount of colors in India and growing up. And so I always kind of had this idol envy. Like I was raised in this monotheistic, very Jewish tradition, where the synagogues had no icons, and then all my friends used to go to these temples, and the Muslims didn't have anything either in India, but like the Hindus had all these rich colors and all these idols. And so I was influenced by that, but I'm not painting idols, I'm painting characters on a stage that are acting out parts of the Midrash and of the Torah. And so and the oldest traditions in the world, like the Dura Europa and all the synagogues, have had figures in the work. So, and they represent different characters. So this is the meaning of my blue skin characters.
Wonderful. Thank you for describing that. Okay, I think we're ready to see it again. And all of you who are here, note the different colors and elements and symbols that you see. And I'm sure that you'll see so much more than you did the first time. I think we'll fast forward through the clip, but it's the art we want to look at. Okay.
Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala.
יהודים לכל דבר.
Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifanala. Heal our bodies, open our hearts, awaken our minds, Shekhinah. Heal our bodies, open our hearts, awaken our minds, Shekhinah. Anna elna rifanala, Anna elna rifana lanu.
I hope you all saw much more this time and really understood it. Yes, let's give her some applause. Wonderful. Did you want to show the portraits that you made? I think we'll really get a lot out of that at this point.
So I can tell you, I can read the statement out so that it's sort of relevant as you look at it. It's a very short statement. It's more like a poem haiku. So this is Miriam and Zipporah and how I imagine them. Miriam the dancer with her tambourine, light blue and fragrant, gaze fixed, memory burned. Zipporah, dark blue and tanned in the sun, my goddess, my girl, my eternity. Portraits framed in golden circles, watching each other and us. Lest us perform again that we should not in this lifetime and the next. The dark one wears her turban in her glory. Entails reveal her future flag. In another land, she will relive the name Isha Kushit, the dark woman. Things are changing, we all say as we defend ourselves. But the stories of our grandmothers, let them not be forgotten, because we are who they were, and our daughters will carry the rest. So Tzipporah is under the gaze of Miriam. Tzipporah is not shy or ashamed of who she is, but she's modest and has the self-confidence within her. Therefore, she does not meet the gaze, but looks introspectively inward into her own self. She is absorbed within. Miriam is the leader and is an extrovert and probes into things. There's a little of both of all of them. There's a little of both of them in all of us. Tzipporah's turban has red, white, and blue colors, and also pink, obviously, because pink is the navy blue of India. The colors reflecting the future of some of her people. Many moons later, some of her people will be slaves in the new world. They will be freed later, but will carry the load in their souls. So this is I did these spontaneous little portraits. I enjoyed doing them a lot because I just felt like, painting them in these tiny little circles. So they're 7 inches, and they're done on matte board with gouache and gold paint. So
Dvir, would you highlight with your cursor what we call the tail of the turban? That little tail of the turban that has red, white, and blue and stars, that's the hinting at the future in America. So I didn't want you to miss that because it's such a sweet detail. And the way they look, the modesty, the not returning the gaze. I mean, these are just spectacular.
Thank you.
And stop that share. So to go back to Beha'alotcha, that very early words in the portion talk about lifting up, rising up to kindle something. In this case, it was the menorah. But taken in our discussion, I want to say that we lifted each other up. We were lifted up by the words, by the art, by the honest meeting. Incredibly moving, really. By the woundedness that we shared. And together, I think we kindled light for the viewers and the readers and those who will see the recording. And I just really want to thank you, Siona. I want to thank you, Dvir. And I want to thank everybody who came, because we were thinking about you all of these months that we were talking, right, Siona? We were saying, well, how will we show it? How will we understand hours and hours and hours of our talking and studying and sharing in just a short time? But I think and I hope that we succeeded. So we wanted to leave a few minutes for you to ask questions or to comment so that you too can participate in this beautiful project.
I wanted to thank Rabbi Alicia too. It was so nice. I can't wait to meet you actually. You're in Arizona, and I'm going to come see you, or you come and see me, because I just enjoyed meeting with you all the time. And Dvir is like, he's not 27, he's like an old soul in this young body, because he's so wise. It's amazing having him and working with him. Really, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much. Questions are welcome.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Yes.
My name is Yitzhak Magal. I'm related to Rabbi Alicia Magal, 48 years, 50 years almost. Siona, I would like to mention something about the blue color. In Hebrew, Mayim Mayim is there is water, and water, Mayim is blue. Usually
Yes.
you see blue sky, so it's related to Miriam. It's
Yes.
very close.
Yes. And blue is also very, very Jewish. It's in the tzitzit and the talit and the Israeli flag, and it's just also in blue pottery in India. I mean, it's just such a universal, wonderful color. Yes, thank you so much.
He's on my iPad, so it says his name, but it says my name, but it's Yitzhak there.
Yeah. Another thing, the henna that they put on the hen, Hebrew hen, it's beauty. Hebrew henna, they come from henna and beauty. That's tradition.
Yeah, to beautify the bride, right? Yeah, that's how you beautify the bride, and cool her with the cooling henna before the heat of the wedding.
Any other comments or questions for our artist or for me?
Well, just to say to both of you, Siona and Alicia, this is Cheslin.
Hi, Cheslin.
Just what a fantastic synergy between the two of you, and I love everything about how this offering unfolded today. Just beautiful.
Where are you?
I'm in San Rafael in California.
Morning.
Wonderful. And the background's magical too, what you have.
Yeah, she's a good friend and a good artist.
Alicia, we met many decades ago.
You did Light with Yud Hey Vav Hey on
That's
Chicago.
what you're seeing. You're seeing something about how that's evolved.
I never forgot you. I remember very well. Anita has her hand up.
Yes.
Before today, I never even heard about the discrimination, the bigotry with, or the negative feelings of Miriam toward Zipporah.
Yeah.
I always thought that, she just loved her. I mean, going to Shira Shirim, Shechora Niv Nava, I'm black and beautiful, and I just, have this connection. Today was the first time I heard that. Earlier, with the talk by Mark Michael Epstein, he talked about it, and I was like, wow. And he talked about how Miriam's skin with its sara'at turned white, which Siona, you did that so beautifully. So it was so synergistic how these two talks that I participated in today just go together so beautiful and do such a mind-blowing experience and a much deeper understanding of that section of the Parsha. Thank you both.
Thanks,
you.
Anita.
I would like to say, I want to congratulate you both, because besides the art that is beautiful, you both have so completely gone outside the box. I mean, I think we all I also was a fellow in the fellowship. So we all made artworks, but you went like completely beyond it in everything, in making a film. We all know Siona as a visual artist. And now we're watching this video, and then the way you just zoned in on like one little portion of the Parsha instead of trying to take on the whole thing. And then the stories, it's just phenomenal. It's been such a rich experience. So thank you both. It's been fabulous.
Thank you, Yona. You were I think I also made this art for anybody who considers themselves the other. I was drawn to Yona, and we're really good friends because she's a Dutch Jew, and we discussed so many times, she might be a white Jew, but it doesn't matter. There is an otherness in so many different ways and so many layers that I think, again, people put people into boxes. And, this actually, Miriam and Zipporah, the interpretation can be seen in many ways, like the previous speaker said. you don't have to go over there. You could just leave it alone and just talk about other things and say, well, she called her Isha Kushit 4 times, but it's okay. It doesn't mean anything. But, but I found there was debate about it. And this professor who I was exhibiting with, kind of sent me this barrage of articles. Like, are you kidding me? Like, all this been discussed before. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not, just speculating it. I feel like I had some validation to kind of read these different articles. But, you can go either way in Midrash, and that's the beauty of it. And you can pick and choose what you want to say, but you have to say it with a fair amount of research and a fair amount of validation. And that's what I feel is really important. So thank you, Yona.
And I can get stuck sometimes in the midrashim that I've read or in the Talmudic interpretation that I've read. And so working with an artist, suddenly I said, oh, you could see it that way? Okay, let's explore it. And it made me soften in a way and open up to new possibilities. So I really appreciated that.
Siona, I have a question about that. In the portraits of Miriam and Tzipora, Tzipora reveals her teeth. And I was wondering, from your perspective, is there a smirk in that revealing of teeth, or is there another symbol, or what was your thought process in that?
I think, yeah, I thought about teeth. I've always noticed that people with beautiful dark skin, the teeth really stand out, and it's so like it makes their teeth whiter. And I felt like that is such an important part of that beauty of much darker skin. And I made her like this cobalt purple kind of, and another shade of blue, but I felt also, I was thinking, I mean, I'm not Da Vinci, but like I was thinking of the a smile, like a Mona Lisa smile, like a kind of like a hidden smile. Like, is she smiling in embarrassment? No, she's smiling, like with almost like acceptance, like, it's okay. You think what you want, but it's okay. I'm sort of I'm okay with myself. And so I didn't want her to be stern or to have no expression. So I felt like, but at the same time, kind of like the head down, the chin down, and sort of more submissive, but at the same time, a strength in that submissiveness. And I saw Miriam as sort of a stronger, like a kind of in your face, kind of a little bit more woman. This is how I see her this time. I've seen Miriam many times in many other ways. I've put her in a cup, I've put her, caught in a web. I have done many versions of Miriam and some of Tzipora. I've done one of Tzipora in my series of Finding Home, where she's actually lifted up by a bird and is being carried away, like a new immigrant. And in another Miriam I've done is where she's actually an immigrant like myself, and she's wearing my great-great-great-grandmother's green sari, and she's got a suitcase in her hand, and she's leaving, and her hand has become a tree, which has become the tree of life, which, she's exiting, she's leaving, she's got a suitcase, she's packed and ready to go all the time, suggesting diaspora and suggesting, where and what is home. So I've seen them in many different ways, and in this time, in this particular way, I wanted to see them like almost looking at each other, and these tiny little portraits, and I wanted to paint them in a certain way that I just had a lot of fun imagining, like, how should I position her head, what should be wearing. And I gave her first I thought I'd give her like a red, white, and blue turban. Then I thought it's too much. It's too much. It has to be more subtle. So then I said, okay, the little scarf coming out from the turbans could be that little, you see it, but you don't see it. So that red, white, and blue to suggest her fate for tomorrow, what will happen to her people, so to speak, in the new world. But the pink turban stands out, and then you see that later.
And you should all go to Siona's website and see some of her large art too, and her commissions for various synagogues. Why don't you tell them your website?
Okay, it's artsiona.com, www.artsiona.com. So I invite you to visit. Thank you.
And if you want to hear more about our Jewish community of Sedona and the Verde Valley.
Siona, Siona, yeah.
That's it. And ours is jcsvv.com, the Jewish community of Sedona and the Verde Valley. You can feel free to contact us if you want to know more about our programs, because we have a whole world of offerings at our congregation, and I'm very open to communication from people across the country.
Besides the beautiful scenery you have around you. Wow.
Yes, I could show you just for a moment if you want to see. Let's have some fun here. Yeah, that's near my house, Bell Rock, and the view from the synagogue actually looks like, where is it? Looks like this. That was on a very interesting day, a cloudy day, where the architecture was reflected in the window, and I took that picture. So if you come to the synagogue, you can see just amazing different views. So that's art, the nature is art as well. What I wanted to do now, yeah.
Before we close, I just wanted to also ask you, Rabbi Alicia, a question about, in your conversations, it became very clear that and I don't know if everyone knew, it was Rabbi Alicia who actually is singing the prayer of El Narafan Allah in the movie, and it was very important to have resolution and to allow both to hold the moment of the racial undertones, but also to carry that moment of reconciliation. And I'm curious for you, why was it such an important to emphasize the El Narafan Allah and what the prayer means for you?
Yes, because it's a very short prayer of healing right from Moses's heart. Please, God, heal her. That was it. And from that, we've got the Misha Berach, and we have a healing blessing at every service. And there's so many versions of it. And we sing one every Friday night and at any other service. And we all need healing. We all need wholeness, not necessarily a cure. That's not always possible. But the idea of refuat haguf, refuat hanefesh, the idea of body and spirit being whole and complete. And sometimes that's through art or music or just coming together and listening to each other. Why not sing it? Because there are places in heaven that can only be reached through music. So it's wonderful to say, it's wonderful to read, it's wonderful to translate, but oh, it's heavenly to sing. And that touches our heart and moves us to tears. Sometimes I can't even get through a song because, I hear what I'm saying and I hear what I'm singing and I just float. So yes, it was important. And I don't know if you noticed, but I changed the last word. I didn't say, please God heal her. I said, please God heal us, lanu. And I sometimes do that. I'll change the words so to be inclusive and to bring, as you said, some reconciliation at the end.
Thank you.
So I'd like to close, if this is the time, with a blessing for all of us. Just take this in. Holy One, a blessing, your presence fills creation. Thank you for this opportunity to come together in holy conversation where the Shekhinah, the holy dwelling presence is here. May we all allow ourselves to see each other as part of ourselves and not as an other. May we have compassion and honor and good feeling for everyone else's talent. May we feel good for them, and may it elevate us. And in the end, may we all be elevated by the possibility of getting closer to Kedusha, to holiness, through our own gateways, each one unique, special, important, and blessed. Amen, everyone.
Amen.
Amen.